now listening to the Good Bad Advice Podcast with Stephanie and Chase.
Hello, we did not come to play with you, hoes.
Oh my gosh, it's 7 a.m.
It is still dark outside. And we are wearing our flawless t-shirts and our gloves from our gloves from the Beyonce show.
I like that we keep doing RuPaul's Super. What is it from? One of his songs.
Yeah. Guess who's back in the house? He'll see clacking.
We keep going. No. That's definitely RuPaul.
But one of the inspos for Beyonce's Renaissance album, which we learned about in her docu-series, for those of you that aren't watching, which is all but 11 of you, we are currently wearing
on YouTube
silver lame gloves past our elbows with our, we have matching flawless t-shirts. Flawless. This is what we wore to the Beyonce show. We did not wear the gloves.
Unfortunately.
We could have, because everybody there was
you were supposed to wear silver.
Silver. Which is really fun. We saw it in IMAX this weekend. We're going to talk about it later on in the show.
Yes, we will get there.
As one of the stories. But
probably after that, we will take these off and stop doing this.
Yes, we'll go.
This is ASMR for the podcasters.
Superstar. Cozy. How art thou?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired, and my acid reflux is really knocking on my door this morning.
Oh my gosh, I had it so bad. We went to a movie last night.
You had popcorn? I pay for popcorn for 3 days.
Yep.
Up and down.
Yep.
It is not like, it is a straight up chronic.
Yeah, no, that's like
when I get those ads for colon broom or whatever, it's like, get rid of 20 pounds of excess fat. I'm like, go to the movies.
Go to the movies.
Yeah. Taco Bell, Chipotle. They all do the exact same thing.
Yeah,
no. Significantly cheaper.
Nothing will like hit you harder close to your 30s like popcorn.
Oh, yes.
Like,
which is such a sad thing because
you have stomach gurgles.
Love popcorn.
Oh, I love movie theater popcorn. You get stomach gurgles. Yes. You get acid reflux for days. I had to take 2 Tums before I brushed my teeth last night. I was just like, well, why? Also, for some reason, my preferred sleep method side is on the right.
Okay. What side of the bed do you sleep on?
On the right.
Have you heard of those freaks that don't have like a designated side of the bed?
No, actually, I think that you're a psychopath.
If you don't have a designated side of the bed, and if you're just like, oh, I guess I'm sleeping on the left side today, seek help immediately. Yeah. You're married to a murderer or you're a murderer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because it's that criminal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely agree. Like the only rare occasion that it would ever happen is like on a vacation.
Not us. We will get into the room and be like, okay, I'm on this side of the bed.
Yeah.
And it does not matter configuration of the room, who's next to the furnace
AC
or the AC. No, we do not mess with that.
See, I like to have the nightstand, so I'll take the nightstand side if there isn't 2 nightstands, which is preposterous.
Yeah.
Hotels.
Was that a Motel 6?
Stop doing that. Anyway, on your right side, for whatever reason, your esophagus opens more, and so your acid reflux is worse when you're laying on your right side.
I lay on my right side because that's how I face the fan.
Yeah.
Because I'm my right side of the bed.
Because have you ever been
We could never share a bed. Now we know for sure. This is done because we'd both be right side of the bed sleepers. Mm-hmm. Well,
we just have to
spoon
on the right side of the bed. The whole left side of the bed would be empty.
Yes, and we just periodically kick our feet back there just to cool down our feet.
Yes, I did go see Hunger Games movie.
Oh, good. How was it?
It was like quite violent.
I know. We saw it in the theater too, and I thought the same thing. Molly
recommended it. She was like, come to a movie with us. We went with my mom and dad. And I just had, to one degree, I was like, sorry, I didn't know you were into such violent things. And my dad was like, that's kind of the premise.
I mean, Kevin brings up a fair point.
It's children killing each other. So, yes. And I was like, okay,
but I'm just saying. Spoiler alert for those of you that have not seen, fast forward about a minute or two.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
For some reason,
why were you looking
when
at
you
me?
said that to me, I was like, did you want me to skip the plot or like what?
Okay, well, now we
like,
have to tell them skip another minute or two, because I full blown had like a gaslit moment where I'm like, was I speaking English? Is my brain working? The thing that was the most bothersome to me, we were talking about this briefly before we recorded, was the having a Down syndrome character in the Hunger Games who gets slaughtered. Was really, really upsetting for me. They did not need to do that. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I read the book. I just don't remember if that was in the book.
I don't think it was.
I just don't think it was necessary.
I think it was a casting choice. We talked about this before, but I said, I think it was a casting choice. They did not mention she had Down syndrome. They only mentioned that she was too young to be competing. And you brought up a great point that why did they need to put her role in the games?
If they were gonna, if it was just purely for casting purposes,
it was purely for casting purposes, giving a marginalized person a role, then she could have been in the academy. She could have played a different role. Like she didn't need to be in that role. And I think that is a very fair point.
Yeah, I was just really, really sad for that. I have such a special place in my heart for people with Down syndrome. We grew up across the street from Lori Ellison. Shout out to all the Ellisons if you listen. Some of them do. So, hey, girls. My mom and Laurie were about the same age.
Yeah.
And my mom became very fast friends with Laurie. And she would come over and babysit us. And she would pack us peanut butter and honey sandwiches at the bottom of her backpack. Then she'd put her Popeye VHS tapes on top of that. And then yogurts on top of that. And then books, coloring books. And so we would get these like pancake thin peanut butter and honey sandwiches. And my mom would have her come over all the time to like babysit us. My mom would still be there, but that gave like Laurie like amazing purpose.
Yeah.
And when my mom wouldn't be able to have Laurie come over, Laurie would retaliate by doing like a couple of things that she'd done. So one, she went and took all of the wreaths off of, this is like the 90s, right? Where everybody had like wreaths, and that was
on
like
every
a huge
window.
like indicator. So she would take wreaths out of our little circle and then put them in my mom and dad's garage and then call the neighbors and say, Liz Walker has your wreath. Liz Walker has your wreaths. And then hang up the phone. And everybody knew, obviously, it was Laurie.
That is
but how amazed.
So funny.
Or she did order 20 pizzas and had them delivered to my parents' house to make my parents pay one time in retaliation for my mom being too busy for Laurie to come over.
Hysterical.
And we just loved her so much. In fact, like probably one of the, when I went to law school, you had to write like essays about your life or whatever. And I talked about working with special needs youth because I was a special needs youth counselor. I did Best Buddies. I did Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And then we had Laurie as well. So we had just multiple associations with people with Down syndrome. And so we talked about Laurie. I wrote about Laurie and a buddy that I had, Andy Downs, who had Down syndrome, and then Robbie Meekum, these like three pillars of like special needs people. And probably like one of the defining moments of my life, no joke, was being invited by the Ellisons, my mom and I, when Laurie was passing in the hospital, to come and get to say goodbye and to be in the room with her as we all were sharing stories about her. And so I just like the soft part of my soul is like so protective of people with Down syndrome. So when I saw that they'd put one in the arena,
it was upsetting.
I was like, absolutely not.
It was also upsetting because to a degree I was like, how are they going to murder this person? Like, and spoiler alert, she does die, but I don't know. Right before the movie, we were talking about like good villains, and there's a couple in that movie, but I also felt like Snow didn't like progress into a villain. It felt very sudden.
Yeah.
So that I was like kind of disappointed.
And he becomes one of the like grossest villains of all time. Like,
yes,
like cinematically in literature, he's a very, very true capital V villain.
I did say to Traven, I was like, I guess what I do appreciate about this movie, book, whatever, depends on which one you watched first. I felt like it gave more context into why he was so triggered by Katniss. Because it did kind of just feel like, dude, why do you have this obsession with this girl?
Yeah, she's 15, 16.
Like it just felt like misplaced.
Yeah.
And so
that's a really, really good point, actually.
Now, like with the context of this movie, I feel like it gave me more context into why he was so triggered by her.
Yeah. They did do a good job, I guess, on that front, and maybe that was the purpose of it. But I feel badly for any villain that is like in large part a villain because they're trying to like protect their family.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, what lengths would you be willing to go to provide food and like shelter for your family?
We did
and
talk
he
about
was willing
this
to do that
too, of just like a great villain is somebody you have empathy for, in that you're like, well, I guess I can understand that like it really was for his family, like the decisions he was making. And so I think that makes a great villain where you feel bad for him or you understand his purpose.
Yeah, I think there's kind of like two flavors of villains, right? There's villains that we all are kind of like, I think I'm kind of a champion. Like,
yeah,
like Maleficent is a good example where it's like, oh, she's misunderstood, or like the Wicked Witch of the East or West, whichever one in Wicked, which is Elphaba. Like,
but that's also with context.
That's what I'm saying. Putting it in the context, there's those classifications of villains. But then there's also villains that are, it's just like the Joker in Batman. Yeah. Like, I don't need any context. I won't ever feel like empathetic for him.
It's the chaotic villain. It's like Bellatrix Lestrange.
Yes.
The Joker is a great example. Voldemort in the later years. Like, more Bellatrix Lestrange is probably a better example.
Yeah, in that
and
franchise.
Then we also talked about villains who like...
Or like Darth Sidious in Star Wars.
Yes.
Like, not like there's no part of redeeming. Oh, I understand the backstory. You know, he was this senator in the Galactic Empire because his children had been murdered or whatever. Like, if they tried adding that in, we'd be like, what the?
Yes. We also talked about like Professor Umbridge, how she is a villain where like she is driven so much by purpose and then power takes over.
Yeah.
And then it becomes like personal power. And I'm like, that's a really great villain too.
Yeah.
Where it's just like they're driven by power. In the beginning, they have like good purpose or potentially good intentions that you can see. And then power takes over. And that makes a very interesting villain.
Yes. Agreed.
I feel like we talked ad nauseum. Also, here's the thing. I have personal beef with Rachel Ziegler, and I don't know why. But the entire movie, I was like...
either. So sorry, Rach.
I kind of, too, just felt like, why are you trying to do this, like, Appalachian...
weird
gypsy
accent. Also, can we
accent?
take the gloves off now? My hands are getting... Goodbye, gloves.
Goodbye, gloves.
I'm sorry. I'm not like the tight. It was like really fun and nice, but then I just kept feeling like I couldn't ever touch my iPad.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so I was like trying to pull up the stories and I was having panic of like, oh.
So yeah, that was my content this weekend. My sister came to visit.
Hi, Jess.
With my nieces and nephews.
Hi, Morgan.
Jess, Morgan, Jada, and Carson. They came to visit, and it was so fun. The day that we saw Beyonce, I also saw Taylor Swift in the morning. So I did an AM Queen feature and a PM Queen feature.
Nice.
Honestly, by the PM, when we walked into the movie, I was like, I am exhausted. So we'll see what I give you today. And then, you know,
then Beyonce breathed life into everything.
Anyway, how was your weekend?
The weekend was good. I went up to, we're going to recap Beyonce, so I won't talk about that. But we woke up Saturday morning and it was snowing here in Salt Lake City. At least it was snowing in Lehigh at the time.
Yeah.
And so Steven was waiting to go up to his shows in Idaho for Saturday morning because it was also snowing Friday night. And it wasn't supposed to be snowing, but it was. And so he doesn't love driving in the snow. So I said, hey, babe, why don't I just drive you? So I kind of had like a spare of the moment run up to Idaho, do a show. It was kind of cool. Went up to Idaho Falls and they did a little arena show.
Oh,
so
fun.
It's like 6,000 people. And, I think tour life is in a lot of ways like really amazing. Like we've met so many incredible people. We love... Literally, I wasn't lying about the acid reflux. If at any point just like barf on here and just like turn over and be like, keep it moving. The show goes on. We like some of our new favorite friends, Matt and Susan, for example. We've met on tour.
Yeah.
Got to know better on tour and get to hang out. And so it's like fun to catch brunch and to, you know, like slow down a little bit. And they were saying, oh, well, the life doesn't really start. The job doesn't really start till like 3 or 4. And so there's kind of like the slow mornings, which I totally get, but it's also just a lot of work. A lot. I don't think we celebrate how much work artists put in on the road.
We'll talk about that when we get to Beyonce.
Yes. I saw a little different production value on the Gentry show, but similar when there's like 30 people taking down stages because they have to put in the stage on the arena, and it was at a
different
where
but
they
same.
have hockey. Yeah, different but similar. So that was really fun. We came home. Actually, I had a terrible weekend.
Oh, no.
I just remembered why.
Why?
I make delicious, Margot, if you're listening to this, I stole Margot's rice pudding recipe.
Okay.
You've had my rice pudding, right?
Yeah, it's very good.
Delicious. And it takes like 2 hours to make.
Yeah.
It is a labor of love. And my friend Emily has been quite sick. And so I'd said, hey, babe, why don't I make you rice pudding? Oh, actually, I said, what can I get you? She said, oh, rice pudding. She's like, do we need rice pudding? I'm like, yes, we need rice pudding. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to make rice pudding. Ruin the first batch.
Oh, no.
2 hours in, and I didn't temper the eggs properly. And so when we custarded it, it just scrambled everything and it was bad. So I had to throw it away, and I'm like devastated. I like write her, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I know I was going to bring it this week. Don't worry, I'll bring it this weekend. So we'll post this on the carousel. I brought a chair next to the stove. I sat next to the stove to make sure I was doing it right the whole time. I don't know what happened. I don't know how I didn't follow the recipe correctly, which is weird because I have done it so many times. It's like I ruined the second batch. And when I tell you to ruin 2 batches of rice pudding within like 3 days of each other, when you spent 2 hours each day
That'll
making
send you into
them,
a spiral.
I spiraled hard. All I could tell you is that it wasn't working. It turned like a really bizarre color. I'd never seen anything. Steven was just like also shook. And I do like a sour fruit compote. So I have that like marinating, but now we just have this sour fruit compote that you can't put on anything else. We're just like,
put it in a Sprite.
I know, but I don't drink carbonation.
Oh.
But Steven comes over, he sees it, and I just like get off of the chair, walk to the couch, sit on the couch, and the TV's not on or anything, and I just like I'm staring forward. Like my brain broke. Like my soul shattered. I was so devastated. We still went over to Emily's and got to hang out with her for several hours and hear about her trips to Africa and whatever. It was like still a nice night.
Yeah.
Could not redeem how upset I was at rice pudding. So I'm a little nervous to remake it. Have you ever had things like that where everything's going well? Like I feel like baked goods would be really common for that. Like all of a sudden the bread just didn't rise. It's like I'm so sympathetic to those people on those baking shows when they're like, my recipe at home works perfectly. I don't know why it's not working.
But the temperature in the kitchen is different.
Something's wrong. There was a little teeny bit of moisture. You got nervous. Your hand shook. Like I don't know what it is. Or sometimes food just doesn't cooperate.
Yep.
I don't know.
Your temperature of your milk made it so that it curdled XYZ, and it's like why
I did it at home. I've done it. I've made rice pudding dozens of times.
I've had it before. It's so
in
good.
Fact, Steven's stepmom was like, hey, will you send me your recipe? We really want to be making it. Like it's becoming a little bit of a moniker for me, and now identity issues. I have no idea who I really am, so I guess I'll just die. Because that's where I'm at if I can't make rice pudding. There's like a few things like the day that I can't make goulash, the day that I mess up goulash, you look for me in the woods by myself.
Every time you say goulash,
you think of your dad calling it fancy hamburger helper. Same. Kevin, for the record, I have brought that up in therapy. That is an honest to God story. I have brought up being like, you know, when you work so hard. So here's the thing. My grandmother made goulash. Yeah. Hungarian goulash, which is basically like a bolognese with a lot of paprika. And
I need to describe it because you describe your stuff fancy already. But it is so good. It is a extreme labor of love. It takes all day to make.
Yes.
Because you make a bolognese sauce and like It has to sit and simmer for hours. Chase brings it over to my dad.
And so for the record, I brought it over to your dad after he'd gotten out of the hospital with COVID, where you thought he was going to die.
Yeah.
It was like
it was very stressful.
It was so like me trying it. We'll talk about the cookies the first time I met that man as well. But I bring it over to Stephanie's dad's house.
And he says, oh, so it's like a fancy hamburger helper.
Even hearing those words is triggering.
I laughed so hard.
You laughed like an uncomfortable,
No.
Don't
it
want
was
me to
so funny
freak out.
Kevin is a teaser. He is a like poker, and that is how he displays love. Mm-hmm. The first time he met you, you brought perfect 4th of July sprinkle cookies. You brought me sprinkle cookies.
I sprinkle cookies for our Real Housewife fans.
And they were perfectly round. They were perfect cookies. He's like,
they were Mamafuku milk bar cookie recipe with cake. I baked a confetti cookie or confetti cake that I crumbled and then folded into the cookie.
Yes. It was
another
so
labor of love.
He was like, did you get these at Sam's?
He's like, I saw these at Costco. And I was like, the hell you did?
He's like, I made these.
I was like, no, I made these.
I got them at Costco.
And I was like, no, he goes, there's no possible way. Please, this is like out of a...
And he did it all night. And it took like about an hour for Chase to be like, yeah, they're my Sam's Club cookies.
Then I just like caved and I'm like, I would just get out of here. And I adore him now. And
it's
so I
his
know
favorite way to tease you though about anything you bring. He's like,
yes.
Did you get this at Kmart?
I'd be like, mm-hmm.
And he's like literally spent 12 hours on it.
Although your parents haven't invited me to dinner since the 4th of July of 2022. So
how dare they?
Molly, I'm calling you out if you're listening to this. I don't know how many times I need to ask to be invited over for dinner. And you continue to deny me, but I will continue to ask, and I've put it on the podcast.
Have you had Kevin's carbonara?
Yeah. Delicious.
So
Kevin's carbonara.
We should have him make carbonara, and then you could be like, oh,
is this Prego?
Is this Olive Garden?
Oh, this is great. This was out of the jar.
Did you get this at Fazoli's?
No, I'm not. I'm just going to be like, is this out of the jar? This is delicious. I had one of those.
Do you remember Fazoli's?
Of course.
It was so good. You could get spaghetti in a tub. You could get literally for like $5. You could get a tub of spaghetti, and you could get a tub equal size of marinara or Alfredo sauce.
I just wonder what other people in the world, when they come to the United States and they see some of our culinary options, if they're just like, what is wrong with people in America?
They had really good breadsticks too.
Fazoli's did have good breadsticks.
Amazing breadsticks.
Yeah, so Molly, Kevin, I'd take chicken Gary, I'd take carbonara, I'd just take an invite.
You want to know a funny story about chicken Gary?
Yes, of course.
A very popular influencer in Utah. I love
that story so much.
A very popular influencer in Utah.
Yes, based out of Utah, not just popular in Utah, popular nationwide.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
She posted on her story that she was making this chicken dish. Now, we knew them. We were in the same ward as them growing up.
Same neighborhood.
I'm watching this story and I go, this is chicken Gary. This is my mom's chicken Gary.
Named Gary after...
Gary, Indiana.
Right?
And I was like, wait a dang minute. I'm like watching it and I send it to my mom. I'm like, this is your chicken Gary recipe. But she's calling it like her mom's chicken. And I was like, no. You're done.
Recipe thief.
I was like, I sent it to the family group chat, like, is this person stealing Molly's chicken Gary? And she literally put it on her blog as a recipe. And long story long.
And is answering people's questions in the comment section about the recipe as though she's the author of the recipe, which
I think she said it was her mom's recipe that she made on Sundays.
Yes.
Molly had brought it to a Relief Society potluck, and that's where they got the recipe. So I was like, she obviously thought it was her own family recipe, but it's Molly's recipe. So anytime she makes chicken Gary, we're like, oh, did you get this from blah blah blah's blog.
Like, gosh, so-and-so talked to me about this, and I love it. You like it too? That's so great.
So funny.
And the other thing that I'm now realizing is I am that blogger because I stole Margot's rice pudding recipe.
You did just say it though.
And the
before
best
you told
part
the story.
is that I have recipe cards in a little recipe book or recipe box from Magnolia Kitchen. And so I have these little recipe cards, and so I wrote. And Margot also has like a really famous, she calls it like an engagement salad. It's super simple, but delicious. And so I have Margot's engagement salad as the recipe. Then I just have rice pudding. And it was still Margot's, but I had the opportunity. So actually, one of the nights when I was making it this past week, I FaceTimed her and was like, I just want to come clean that I have been making your rice pudding for a year, 2, 3. And I tell everybody it's my recipe for rice pudding.
I do not give you credit. Well, now you have publicly, so.
Now I have publicly come
You
clean
made up for
about
it.
it. So sorry, Margot, and everyone I've lied to.
You'll be fine.
Okay, we are, oh my gosh, we never remember. We're the Good Bad Advice podcast. We need to remember to do that. Everything I've read talks about
If people have got this far, they know who we are.
I know, but there's something about like, I read it in the big podcast
You always
book.
try and do it like 45 minutes in.
That's my shtick now.
And it's like,
you never know when
you
we're
have
going
to
to welcome
do it
this.
at the beginning.
No. Now you never know when we're going to welcome you to the show.
An hour
It's
in,
like those weird movies where or a weird TV series where they'll have like 20 minutes play and then do the opening credits, or the next episode do like 2 minutes in and opening credits, where it's not consistent. That's me. You know what? You can count on me to not be consistent. That you can take to the bank.
To change my mind.
Welcome to the Good Bad Advice podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Chase.
You know what I think it actually
you have to say,
I'm Stephanie. And you know what I actually
and
think
we give advice to people in the news who don't ask for it. The best kind of advice, don't you think, Steph? Hey, babe, how are you?
I'm tired. I'm tired of this.
The sun is now slowly coming up. That's how long we've been doing this.
I'm tired of you interrupting the middle of our podcast
to
explain who we are. Because if they made it this far, I feel like they already know. And you know what actually happens? Yes, they do.
Some of them don't.
Do you think a random person would have just stumbled into our podcast and got 30 minutes into an episode
Manifest, babe.
to just be like, oh, they give advice? I'm not interested.
Okay, but to be fair, I'm now just visualizing. I'm going to manifest. We're going to have one random person. It'll be like when we check our little podcast numbers, which we probably should at some point again. So we need to at some point care. But we'll see like location. It'll be like a random. It'll be like
Abu Dhabi.
Fully. Or it'll be like some random city in Salt Lake, some random city in the United States. We don't know. Because most of the people, most of the areas we see.
This one's for Gary, Indiana.
When Gary from Gary, Indiana listens to this and he's like, oh my gosh, they give advice as well? Whoa, I thought they were just funny. That's amazing. This podcast has everything.
I'm dead. Oh my gosh.
Remember how we
funny.
talked about delusional?
Yeah.
We need, if we do merch now.
Gotta.
Yeah. You know how we also never, we know what we never shared, but we shared it on Ashley's episode. But if people were just kind of like only wanting us, which like we don't blame you.
No.
That
was a really
I
good
don't know
episode.
if we ever shared. Remember we talked about our
mean comment.
Our really mean comment where someone said that we are the worst of what humanity.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are the worst of what humanity has to offer.
That is a direct comment from someone on YouTube, which is so funny. And it was the short where we were talking about not surviving a zombie apocalypse. No, me
not
surviving
wanting
it
to survive
because you'd be a baby maker, and I was like, I would be in a colony of gays because the zombies would be afraid we'd read them to film. Which was a gag. Obviously, one, zombies aren't real, and two, I would never want to hang out with a bunch of gay people. This person commented, and
it was like you. First, they said something mean about me. I honestly don't remember. But they were like,
and something mean about me.
Almost, or you're not quite as bad. No, it was me. I was the worst one because I was a woman.
Yeah, that's true.
But you're almost as bad as this non-procreating man, which is like so funny because Chase actually has children.
Of the two of us, I have procreated
you
twice.
have procreated children. So funny, but then the kicker was you are the worst of what humanity has to offer.
And Ashley said that should be our merch.
Yeah,
that if we did merch, it should be our very first
the
line.
worst
Should
of
be
what
the worst
humanity
of what humanity
has to offer.
But now I think it also could be just delusion. Or delusional, or like you love to say, Delulu.
Delulu is the Solulu.
Delulu is the Solulu. You feel a little down? Delulu is the Solulu. Life got you feeling depressed? Don't be depressed, be Delulu. It's the Solulu.
Let us know if you want the worst of what humanity has to offer merch.
The episode should be called The Worst of What Humanity Has to Offer. Or no, that's what our Christmas gift should be. It should be The Worst of What Humanity Has to Offer, because we also...
Yeah, that's going to be our explicit episode.
That'll be our explicit episode where
this one's for Gary, Indiana.
This one, or just Delulu is the Solulu would be really funny.
That's a good one.
I need to write that down
Anyway,
here.
not that we need to muse about our title episode. We do this every episode, though, where we're like, what should we name this episode at some point during that
And
episode?
then the problem is that if I don't write it down, then you'll write me at 9:00 tonight and be like, I'm posting episode titles, ? And I'm like, oh, dang it. I lived a whole life since we recorded. Yeah. Okay, let's get into it. We are going to give some advice to people in the news. They didn't ask for it, but we're giving it to them anyways.
Absolutely.
And of course, we're starting off with Queen Bey.
Beyonce.
Renaissance, a film by Beyonce, tops the box office, stomps all over Godzilla.
As it should.
Yes, and it had a strong showing of 21 million.
Yeah.
It didn't come close to Taylor Swift's. Not that we're pitting women against women, but that is the very first line in Entertainment Weekly. So way to pit women against women.
How dare you?
Here's the thing. So you'd gone to Renaissance. I had not.
Yes.
First off, content review. Don't take children. I would say it's probably not appropriate for kids under the age of 12.
No, I agree.
Or maybe even a little bit older. There's quite a bit of profanity. There's quite a bit of
there's just a lot of profanity in this.
And some heavy stuff.
Adult content?
Well, babes, the dancers are barely dressed in some of these outfits.
Yeah, but if they've seen vigilante shit.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That
that's
is like
one song. This is kind of a theme.
Most of the album has more crass language. So
yes.
I agree. Probably
yes,
not under 12.
Yeah. You'd gone to Renaissance, so you knew what to expect.
Yep.
I had not seen anything. I'm going to review it as someone who had not seen anything. One, it's exactly what you would expect from a Beyonce docuserie if you have seen any of her other shows.
Yes.
Which I think is a really beautiful amalgamation of her performances, her history, and then her narrative. So you kind of get the behind the scenes, you get the actual show, and then you get her take on it, her messaging, her history, which I loved getting to learn more about this album that I won't lie, when it came out, I thought it was garbage trash.
No,
I thought
we
it was
texted each other live when it came out. Like at midnight, we were listening to it.
Yeah.
And like we said to each other, I don't think this is for me.
Right.
We were correct in that statement.
Yes. I think there was some...
At that time.
There was a part of me that was just like, I want her... I even liked Lemonade.
I love Lemonade.
I was more of like a I Am Saucer Fierce album. Like that to me was pinnacle Beyonce, like Hello and... I Am Here, or that's 4. But that sort of early Beyonce was just like she spoke to my soul. Then Lemonade came out, and I was like, oh, okay, great. Like this is kind of a little bit different. And then what was her other one? The one from Flawless with Partition. You know what album I'm talking about? It's the black album with the with the pink lettering. But that one, I'm going to look it up, her discography. But that one, I was kind of like, gosh, this is still like pretty good. And then when Renaissance came out, I just thought, whoa, talk about having a midlife crisis, trying so hard to be like young and hip and relevant when you're a literal goddess. You don't need to stoop to those sorts of levels.
I don't think I was in the right place to receive it, honestly.
Okay.
When I saw it in person, and same thing to when you watch it, watching Beyonce do what she does is watching a masterclass in greatness.
Agreed.
It is like watching Michael Jordan play basketball. It is watching a documentary on Kobe Bryant. Like, these are the people who are in the 1% of talent in the world.
Agreed.
Even
and work ethic.
0.05% of talent in the world.
Agreed.
And work ethic and drive and
vision.
Like, you are watching somebody craft excellence. And that's what I said to my mom when we walked into the concert or when we were driving there. I was just like, You might not know the words, but you're about to watch greatness.
Yeah.
Because of her excellence. Like, she is... I understand some people being not listening to her music because it's more vulgar or more crass. You know, like, find a clean version. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't have energy for people who, with Beyonce or Taylor Swift, tell me, like, I don't understand the hype. I don't get it. Nobody's saying that about Billy Joel. Like, nobody's...
Elton
if you don't
John,
listen... Yes.
Michael
if you don't listen to
Jackson.
Billy Joel, Elton John, Michael Jackson, Bruno Mars, if you don't listen to these men, you don't go, I don't get the hype.
Yeah, true.
You're not saying that about men artists. Stop saying that. And also, if you are saying that, my advice is that this is for you. Go watch the movie. You're the person who's supposed to be seeing it. Like, I get so bothered by that response because I've been a Beyonce fan for a very long time.
Okay,
like,
can we just cut for a second?
No, I'm not cutting.
Hang on. We absolutely have to do a social cut of your hands for the last 2 minutes because they were in their own
Aggressive.
star character in the story.
My hands are their own paid actor.
The hands were like, I don't know. It was as though you were doing fake sign.
No, I just get
It's
so
good.
agitated because I have been a Beyonce fan for so long. Like, for one of her birthdays in like 2015, I morphed my face onto the Sasha Fierce album. We will post it on the carousel side. I have loved her for so long. So I have put up with these conversations for so long of people being like, I don't get the hype. I don't understand.
Oh,
She's not that talented. I'm like, literally don't talk to me if you have something to say in that direction. If it's about Taylor Swift, if it's about Beyonce, if it's about Kelly Clarkson, I don't need to hear it. Cram it up your cram hole, okay? Right. And if you go see this and then you still have that conversation for me, then I think you need to reevaluate yourself.
Yes.
In that, like, what is going on in here that you can't see that she is talented?
Yeah.
And one of the greatest entertainers of our time. And that's all I have to say today.
Preach, amen, sister.
That's been sitting with me all morning. I feel like since I woke up at 6 a.m., I was like, I want to fight with people who don't like Beyonce today.
I know. I'm not going to say anything about that because I fully agree with it.
Thank you.
But what I also will say is that my advice is, one, go with a super open mind because I didn't know what to expect, but I was like, I'm totally here for it. We were wearing matching merch. And so for me, if you're going to go to the show, go and really go in with an open mind and just appreciate that she is a human being. She is a mother. She is a wife. She's someone who's like doing an incredible job in her craft, and I love that for her. I also think we're not having like a lot of great movies come out for the holiday season. I know Wonka's coming out, but I think if you're
you know Wonka's a musical?
Yeah,
I guess that shouldn't be that surprising because the first one was also a musical.
Totally. But I think this would be one that you could absolutely throw in if you've got older kids or if you just want to have like a date night or something for the holiday season. Go to Beyonce. Is it only on the weekends again? Kind of like how Taylor Swift did?
I don't know.
We'll have to look into that. But hopefully go and then tell us what you guys think of that. I would say go to Beyonce over going to Hunger Games.
Yeah,
if you're gonna pick
I
a
actually
movie.
agree. You can see Hunger Games at home. You don't need to see it in the theaters.
And then you can fast forward when you want to.
Oh my gosh, that movie needed editing. Not
yes.
Beyonce's though. Hers was like, I think
the editing was actually amazing. You know what editing is actually really bad from my content plate that I told you I was going to share, but I just spaced it?
What?
Sister Wives. My number one complaint with Sister Wives is Robin. My number 2 complaint with Sister Wives is coding. My number 3 complaint with Sister Wives is the editing. I hate when they do like a coming up. And they do like a minute of coming up and then you come back from like commercial, except we don't have commercial because we watch it on HBO Max. It then comes back and it's
something totally different.
The exact same thing that we just spent a minute watching
the
preview for. I think that's just like really
I feel like it's
editing.
Like you are telling me you don't have enough content, but I know you have enough content.
Right. Also, those poor Sister Wives. I'm not gonna lie. I'm so happy Christine got married. We talked about that earlier on the pod. It just the talk about looking bleak as heck, and Robin is without question in my list of 5 people I'd punch in the face.
Villain. Good
Villain with
villain.
a capital V. I don't even care about her backstory.
See,
it
but
actually works against her.
That's one of those for me that it's like
Dolores Umbridge.
Dolores Umbridge, where it's like she has good intentions, but power has taken over.
Yes.
To where she has now become the villain.
Who would be 5 people? Have you ever played? We've played 5 people you'd punch in the face.
Oh, no, but I love this game.
Who
I'd
would
love to
be,
start.
okay, who would be your 5 people
5
that
people.
you'd punch in the face?
I don't even watch Sister Wives, and I know for sure I'd punch Cody in the face.
Okay, Cody.
He just has a punchable face.
And what my first one is Robin. I'll pick from the same show.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I just would love to punch a man in the face.
Yeah. The man I'm punching in the face is Bruno Tonioli from Dancing with the Stars.
Why?
First off, keep your jacket on. I don't need to see your old man nipples. And 2, sit in your chair and be a normal human judge.
Oh,
I
the
want to just punch
judge.
him so hard in the face.
You better be careful. My friend Gabby's going to come for you.
Gabby, I love you, but you cannot honestly tell me that Bruno Tonioli does not annoy the heck out of you.
She loves Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, same. He's just the
so
worst
much.
part of that.
No, I came for Dancing with the Stars, and it's like the one thing Gabby and I disagree on.
Oh, no, I actually have watched the whole season. Fingers crossed for Ariana to win.
Don't come for Dancing with the Stars. Gabby will find you.
No, I'm excited. I'm just saying Bruno Tonioli I would punch in the face.
Yeah, that's fair.
Bothers me so much.
Ooh, what's it? Tom Sandoval?
Oh, yeah,
he has
great choice.
He has an extremely punchable face.
I would say have you seen the Jeopardy game where it's like they bring back it's called The Chase? Mm-mm. I would punch 2 or 3 of those Jeopardy like all-stars who are like of the house, like they sit in the house or whatever. I would punch at least one of them in the face. I don't even care. It could be Ken. I don't care. Ken Jennings. He could get punched in the face. Just like bam! Oh, I just almost broke this microphone.
that.
Okay, anyone else on your immediate list? You can't pick family members, although I'm sure we both have a couple we could put, so we won't talk about those.
So we would never punch family members.
Yeah, obviously. And we're not condoning physical violence. Don't come for us.
Probably, I'm currently reading Britney Spears' memoir, so Justin Timberlake can take a swift right hook from me.
Yeah, and her dad.
Yeah.
Her dad could take a right hook from me.
Although her dad, you understand more in the book that like he was a victim of his circumstance and like abuse begats abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have a little bit more empathy from him, but yeah, swift uppercut to him. Who else? Honestly, early David Letterman. His interviews were quite obscene. He was one of those that
that's coming from your Britney Spears memoir too.
Yep,
I'm sure she talked
probably
about that.
She hasn't talked about it specifically, but I remember watching an interview of him with Britney Spears. He was mean to girls.
Yeah, I would punch Bellatrix Lestrange. We had talked about her earlier. I would just punch her right in the face just to shut her up.
She's such a good villain, though.
I know, but
you have to respect it.
Some villains you got to punch in the fotch.
No, that's fair.
Anyone else? Guys, play this game with people at the office or dinner or your loved one. Just say, hey, we need 5 celebrities you would be okay with punching in the face. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else on my list. My
Tristan
brother-in-law,
Cheating Thompson?
Oh, yeah, but he's kind of hot. Tristan Thompson is hot. Don't make that face.
He walks like a troll.
Okay, I have seen those TikToks of him walking. That's kind of funny.
And like,
but he is a professional
his
athlete,
arched.
so I'm not going to come at him for like something physical.
He could still take up. You know why.
We do. You do know why. Okay, speaking of celebrities, we got advice for someone else. This was actually a really sweet moment. Maculay Culkin got his star on the Walk of Hollywood.
Every freaking video. Gabby, I'm just name dropping her a lot this episode. Yeah. We were talking about this at work yesterday. She's like, every video, I was crying. When his mom from Home Alone came out and her speech, I was crying.
Catherine
when
O'Hara.
he was talking, Catherine O'Hara. When he was talking to Brenda Song about basically like, you're not only
the greatest woman I've ever loved, you're the greatest human I've ever met.
Yeah, I'm gonna cry right now.
Here's
it
the
was
thing,
so beautiful.
He got wrapped up in the Michael Jackson of it all, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't that kind of, he had like a fall from grace. So, but I don't actually know
he became like, he was doing drugs and alcohol very heavily.
Right, but I thought that was kind of derivative of potentially being a victim.
No, so he is adamant that nothing ever happened between him and Michael Jackson. He's like the biggest proponent for that was all fabricated.
Got it.
Because maybe he said that nothing ever happened.
You're saying the Wade Robson allegations he's claiming are
Yes.
fabricated. Okay, because there was something I remember reading
Well,
about him.
at least not fabric. Like at least for him, nothing ever happened.
Got it.
And it was totally
So he's
an
not trying to
innocent
invalidate
relationship.
experiences of other individuals that have
That's
come
my
out with
experience
claims.
of.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
He did seem so unbelievably sweet. He was also on Celebrity Jeopardy this past season. And I found myself kind of, I wouldn't say like drawn to him in a way. He has a much higher pitched voice than I would have imagined. His face, you know how the voice doesn't match the face?
Yep.
Macaulay Culkin's new voice does not match his face. Well,
I have to tell you the funniest story about Macaulay Culkin, which is that my brother texted me one morning that his wife Amanda came out of sleep in the middle of the night and he was still awake. And she said, "Who's the name of that kid from Home Alone?" And he's like, what are you talking about? And she goes, "Maculay Clarkson." Yeah. And then she just rolls over and goes back to sleep. So anytime I hear Macaulay Culkin, all I can think of is Maculay Clarkson. Maculay Clarkson.
Macaulay Culkin.
But yes, he was so wonderful and lovely in all of the videos.
He was just so wonderful. And here's my general advice. Well, I think he did amazing for Hollywood Walk of Star on the Walk, Hollywood Walk of Fame. Star on the Walk of Fame.
Star on Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yes. Gosh, that is a tongue twister. Okay. She sells seashells by the seashore. I think that what he did that I love so much, that's so different, because then I went down the rabbit hole of other stars getting their star on the Walk of Fame. Mm-hmm. He was so humble. There's two types of humility. There's PR humility, which is where someone has helped you write a speech that makes you seem very gracious.
Yeah.
It's like,
fabricated.
I just can't believe it. And it feels a little disingenuous, but it's polished enough that nobody will come at you. And you said all the right things and it's a whatever. And then there's the humble where he's like, I'll be honest, I don't deserve this. But if I have this opportunity and there's eyes on me, I just want to thank like Brenda and I want to thank Catherine. And there was this really cute moment where Catherine O'Hara walked up and it said like, gosh, so you have to stand here when everyone says all these nice things. He's like, I know, it's so uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. And she's like, should we get you a chair? And he's like, no, that's not it, you know?
Yeah.
And it was so endearing. So if you're going to get a star on the Walk of Fame, can you please just write it yourself? Can you not rely on your team? Can you just let it be real from you? It's your
and
star.
be grateful for the things that like brought you there. He referenced Home Alone so many times,
Yeah.
and so did Catherine O'Hara. Like, he was just like, I mean, he ended his speech with, "And in the spirit of everything, Merry Christmas, you filthy animal," and then like walked off the stage. Like, also the ones that I remember of speeches for the Hollywood Walk of Fame is ones that like they really give flowers to the people in their life. Like,
Agreed.
Ryan Reynolds, his
Yes.
speech was like all about Blake Lively
Yeah.
and their daughters and like what being a dad meant to him. And I was just like, just feels so honest.
Yeah.
In a moment that like you could make it just about you.
Yeah.
And
I
you
just
make it
want-
about others.
I want people to be authentic. I think polish is overrated. And that's probably because I'm not very polished. And so I'm like, polish, well, not really. I just love when someone is just like totally real.
Yeah.
Good, bad, and ugly. They're just saying it. It's true to who they are. And I just think that that is what we should be celebrating. Underrated, particularly in Hollywood, but more importantly in life, is just someone being authentic and being vulnerable and sharing vulnerable things. I just think kudos, snaps for Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
Or Maculay
Clarkson.
Amanda, we adore you.
He's kind of one of those names like Bernadette Cucumber Patch, where you can say like whatever as long as you say the M and the C.
Everyone knows exactly you're talking about Benedict Cumberbatch.
Like mackerel crackling.
Benedict
People would be
Cumberbink.
like, that is
What's
Macaulay
that name again?
Culkin.
Molly Mullum?
Molly Culkin? Molly. Exactly.
Okay, speaking of names that you will never forget, Kelly Clarkson was in the news again today. First off, her stylist on her show needs a raise.
Yeah,
I know they moved
good.
the show to like from LA to
She's been looking
New
good.
York.
She
She's
got
been
bangs.
looking good. She got bangs. She got skinny. She got good style.
Yeah.
But
not that she wasn't gorgeous before.
No, of course.
We always love Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah, we adore. She's a queen as well. But she also is getting karma.
Justice.
Justice.
Karma is a cat purring in my lap because it loves me.
It finally came back to her. Her ex, Brandon Blackstock, which you could have paid me $1,000 to identify if you'd given like his name amongst 100 other names.
Nope.
And said find Kelly Clarkson.
Oh,
you
said
have 10
who?
guesses. I would have been like, I have absolutely no idea.
They said I don't know this man.
Brandon Blackstock was ordered to repay her $2.6 million for unlawful business deals. What is amazing about this is twofold. Mm-hmm. First off, she just continues this winning streak in her divorce battle, which is so awesome because her divorce settlement was outrageous in favor of Brandon. Nuts. And you felt really badly for her. I mean, she's paying so much money just in child support alone and in support and having to give. And he was willing to just to take. Mm-hmm. But then we learned that he was ordered by a California labor commissioner last week to repay $2.6 million in commissions for past business deals he procured for Clarkson as her manager, but did not give to her.
Yeah.
And so that is...
I watched a TikTok on it. Basically, he took like agent fees on top of management fees.
Yeah.
And for the deals that he made, he was not allowed to take both of those fees, which is why he now owes her money.
Yes. And what the other thing that was interesting too is that... So think about, coaching role. So she got promotional deals with The Voice for $208,000, $450,000. This is what he had to pay back.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like makes sense. If he's taking a percentage, she's getting paid a grundle for doing The Voice.
Yeah.
Get that. But then Norwegian Cruise Lines. Oh, that's the 215. Then $450,000 for her partnership with Wayfair. That's what he took.
Crazy.
As a percentage.
Which also, her stuff with Wayfair is cute.
Is it?
Yeah, it's actually really cute. She has really cute stuff. I feel like it's pretty average pricing, but it's cute.
Well, and what's
it's very
just so
like
bomb
Texas,
about this to
Nashville
me,
house, though.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's on brand for her. What I love about this the most is that his public image, romantic image, obviously being Kelly Clarkson's ex, tarnished forever. She wrote her album about it. You know, she said that she wrote her most recent album while in the air. Oh, shout out to Jordan, who loves Kelly Clarkson as well, Jordan and Adam. So if I get these facts wrong, I'm sure they'll correct me. But she had written her most recent album. She says a lot of the time she wrote it in the air, flying back and forth so that she could go see her kids. And so the ups and downs of those feelings, which I totally relate to.
There's nothing like crying on an airplane.
So her kind of... his public image romantically shattered.
Yeah.
This also now shatters
professional
his professional image.
Boop, boop, boop.
And I just
we
love
that for
you
her.
Come for someone in an unhealthy, unethical way.
She's literally our American Idol.
Literally.
Like, we all voted for her. We
Every
all
one of us
watched
did.
that show.
And
we
so
all love Kelly
part
Clarkson.
of me also just thinks the advice I have, particularly for people going through divorce in the public eye, excuse me, stay on good terms with your ex as much as possible, because $2.6 million, he could have easily just struck a deal with her and said, hey, we got to handle this. If they were being cool on cordial terms, this would not have affected him. The fact that he wasn't on good terms, that he tried to blast her, he tried to make her seen publicly, like he came for her first.
Yep.
And this now is the consequence of your action. What is that TikTok sound? Oh no, the consequence for my actions. This is exactly what you deserve. So
he tried
advice,
to bury this news too.
What?
He released it on like Friday night.
Totally.
Which that lets you know it came from him.
Yeah.
She's not releasing stories about him. She is literally like, I'm moving on. Separate myself as much as possible from him. He released this news, or somebody had to release the news, and he did it on a Friday night to try and bury it.
Yeah.
And honestly, the story was hard to find.
The story was hard to find. I was glad that you put it in here because I had seen it on TikTok too, and was like, gosh, I just love the general note of like, bros, you get more bees with honey, and I think that's very, very true when relationships end. There's no reason for it to be super contentious, even if they were like a nightmare to you. Particularly if you share kids.
I think what was so like just volatile about their breakup was that she had wrote Piece by Piece, which was one of my Roman Empire moments, if you listen to that episode, which talked a lot about how her dad wanted money from her when she was successful, and like how painful that was for her, and how he would never take from her because he loved her.
Yeah.
And then to watch him do that during their divorce was like, we all heard that. We all heard that she said that you would never do that. And so it looks like you're doing it to hurt her. And so it was just one of those like divorces where you see that they're obviously just attacking each other.
Yeah.
One-sided.
Well, one-sided. I was going to say she stayed above the fray, which
she
is
did.
why
She did. She didn't make any comments about it.
Her side.
She was not on air on her show being like, I hate my husband. She sang a couple of songs with some changed lyrics that made us go, yeah, Kelly. But she did not slander him, but he did the exact thing that he knew would hurt her.
Yeah.
And that's why we all hate him.
And you know what's different about this divorce than, like, let's say the Sophie Turner, Joe Jonas divorce, is that because Kelly did not come for him, I mean, she did it in her own, I think, highbrow way, but she didn't really come for him publicly at all.
Yeah.
She stays completely above the fray, and so we do not look at her and think divorce first. We think of her queen first.
Yeah.
I think with Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner, for example, because it's been so acrimonious, I think there's other celebrities that have similar things where I look at them now and I think, oh yeah, you're divorced from Joe Jonas, you're divorced from Sophie Turner, like because they just got ugly. Advice: don't be ugly.
Yeah.
Do the best to stay above the fray in a divorce, particularly in a divorce setting, because you're just going to feel better. The results are going to be better and happier and healthier, honestly.
I actually am thinking about that now, even with like Britney Spears, when Justin did this whole slander campaign, when his Justified album came out and wrote this song all about like Crimea River. And it's like, oh yeah, we really did slander Britney Spears. And now it really is what goes around comes all the way back around.
Totally.
Because now Justin is getting his just desserts. But you think about at that time, like it was not a place in media where women could fight back through PR.
Yeah.
Like it
and
didn't
now
exist.
I feel like there's enough
evidence
here, but it's sad that it requires a lot of evidence.
And time. That was like painful time for her.
Yes. Destructive, ultimately changed the trajectory of her life forever.
Yeah.
Time. So yeah, just be cool, guys, in a divorce. Do the very best you can. Try not to be like getting in the mud will make everybody dirty. That's
Don't
it.
try and hurt other people.
Yeah, generally.
Do what's best for your kids.
Speaking of kids, our next story, the next people we're giving advice to are people with kids, like this one guy who on his deathbed decides to confess that he was a bank fugitive.
This was crazy.
TMZ reports that a woman dished all on her father's shocking deathbed confession, saying her life changed when she discovered that he'd been a wanted man for most of his life following an old bank heist. So her dad died of lung cancer, got a lung cancer diagnosis. The 71-year-old explained to Ashley and her mom that he had to change his real name, that they ought to finally know in case it comes up after his passing because authorities were probably, quote, still looking for him. She thought it was just a terrible dad joke, but it turns out it was not.
Fully nuts.
Nuts.
She looked him up later.
I'm obsessed.
He equivalent at the time had stole like $218,000, which is the equivalent now to $1.8 million.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I find this to be kind of iconic. Like, honestly, I mean, at least he didn't admit to like, I'm the Zodiac killer or like I am a serial killer and murdered a bunch of people.
Right.
Like a bank heist, I would be like, oh, Dad, why'd you do that?
That is true. There are deathbed confessions that are okay and kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, my real name's Ted. What's his name? Ted Cannon. My real name's Ted Cannon and I'm a wanted man for murder.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, like if I found out my dad was wanted for murder, like on his deathbed, like that would
That would
change
be
your
so
perspective
surprising.
of who he was.
Agreed. If I found out
Like
my
a bank
dad had
heist, I would be
stolen
like-
with $2 million and the Declaration of Independence, I
I'd
would
like,
be
okay,
here
Ocean's
for-
11.
fully. I'd be like,
I'm like,
okay,
oh.
Nicolas Cage,
Like-
live for it.
George Clooney, is that you?
Yeah, but then but the other kind of, I was thinking of bad things to confess. Like, what would be the worst thing for a parent to confess? And I have a couple of ideas. One, they have a separate family.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised when Monica shows up to the funeral.
Yeah.
Who's Monica? My other wife. What?
Beep. Yeah.
That they're not really your dad.
Yeah, that would be.
That I was thinking of just like, I just want you to know, I'm not your biological beep. Like, terrible.
Yeah.
And the reason why deathbed confessionals, it's just because then you're left without any information.
Honestly, I think more people should be taking things to the grave.
Oh, yeah. Stop with
Take
the
it to the
deathbed
grave.
confessionals. Loose lips sink ships, you weak snitch.
Honestly, and also it's so funny to me that she is coming out and saying stuff because I'm like, this guy was still a wanted man. Like, you think there's going to be no repercussions on your bank account?
There's no money.
They don't have any money.
No, this says whether the heist was worth it or not would have been questioned for Ted, a.k.a. Tom. As Ashley said, most of the stolen money was blown on ritzy digs and at least one bad investment, reaching to the point of her having to loan her parents $10,000 before they filed for bankruptcy in 2014.
Okay, but like, they still want reparations.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, and I don't know if you come after the estate.
I feel like if my dad was like, I stole $2 million, I would come to you first and be like, can I talk about this? Like,
And I'd be like,
is somebody gonna come after me? Like,
and I'd be like, I don't know. Let me call a grown up. I also think just go to bed with deathbed confessionals.
There
do
are some
nothing.
things you don't
They
need to tell
only
other people.
Create TMZ articles.
especially when it's just something that's like you have a guilty conscience and you want to tell somebody. Keep it to yourself. I don't care. I'm not forgiving you. Like, if on my parents' deathbed, my dad tells me something that's like awful about us or something that relates to me, I'll be like, I don't forgive you. You don't get to go to your grave feeling at peace.
No, there's no peace here. Yeah, that's a warning. If your plan is to make a deathbed confessional, I used to think like, oh, I'll just sin and then right before I'm dead, I'll confess to the bishop or the ecclesiastical leader and then I'll just feel better because I'll go to heaven with no sin. And I'm like, that ain't how it works.
No, that's not how it works.
I don't know how it works, but I know it ain't that.
I have to let you know, if you think that you're going to your grave peacefully, you will see me down here on earth stewing and pissed at you.
Also, I have serious funeral plans, so I can't ruin someone's motivation to execute those plans perfectly.
That's true.
Because I do a deathbed confession. I got to be
true.
like, I really want everyone in wigs. Keep it to yourself. Beep. Just let it go. I'm like, I want Susie cakes. Think of the cake. Think of beep.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I went a long period of my life just navigating things internally and not being as forthcoming with certain things for a whole host of reasons.
Yeah.
But I think I'm like, oh, I could die with secrets.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
There's some things that you just don't need to tell people if they're going to hurt them.
Ever.
But again, if Kevin was like, I was a bank robber and I got away with it, I'd be like, slay, honestly. Like,
He'd be like, yes, queen.
I'd be
Tell
like,
me all the
is that in a
deeds."
trust for me somewhere?
He's like, nope, I spent
He's
it
like,
on
no, I
ritzy
spent it
digs
on
and-
trips to Italy. I'd be like,
Makes sense.
all right, you dog.
Okay, speaking of old, we have one more person in the news to give advice to.
One
an
more.
Old
This
guy.
is kind of
This is
unfortunate.
a little bit of a letdown. The Golden Bachelor, Not So Golden.
Golden.
The Hollywood Reporter reports.
What a great headline.
Two kind of tracks of information that the Hollywood Reporter did in this kind of large sweeping expose tarnishing the varnish of the Golden Bachelor. The first that they identify is that he had misrepresented his professional career. It said that they really sold him as like a retired restaurateur, which makes you think that he's got
worked at
restaurants
Chili's.
and
He managed a Chili's
owned
franchise.
restaurants and then but turns out no, he had sold like a little chain restaurant, one franchise of it, and in like the 90s or something, and then continued to have a lot of other like odds and end jobs putting in installation stuff or whatever. So they kind of sold him as this yuppie. I don't know. I didn't watch, but I was reading the article where they were saying that they really sold him as this retired entrepreneur, successful. You know, he's always looking very, very dapper. Mm-hmm. And that just is not true. Where the Hollywood Reporter points out, which I think is fair and general advice to people in casting, in addition to not picking people who are going to quit reality shows. I'm looking at you, Jeff Probst. Could we also just look at potential leads like bachelors, social media, and their LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Because all the information that the Hollywood Reporter got was from their LinkedIn, which is the old person Facebook. Like, that. And so he disclosed all these things, so they shouldn't have packaged him. And they had to have known, but I think they purposely tried to make him seem more than what he was.
Yeah. It feels like we should be doing better vetting. And also, like...
And here's the other track, though. Let me hit that, and then we'll talk about the vetting. Is that he also reported, like, hey, I've not really been in any relationship since I became a widow. And talked about how, you know, he had maybe, like, an innocent kiss. Well, now a lady's come out to say, we were in an almost 3-year relationship prior to you being on the show. What are you talking about? You didn't have... They tried to play him like this sympathetic man who'd buried his wife, retired, and now is looking for the next chapter, when he began dating this woman whose name they changed for her own privacy and protection, but saying, hey, it was like a month or two after his wife had passed that they began a romantic relationship. Yikes. And it had ended. So it's a little sad, but we are kind of like, can we please just vet people? Good night. It just...
I can understand, like, the perfect packaging of, you know, The Bachelor. I just am kind of like, I'm tired of these things where it's like, oh, it comes out later, like, he's this type of person. And it's like, you guys should have done better work on this.
Because
so that
it wasn't
aren't
hard.
Left disappointed.
I get that, like, the Hollywood Reporter, the journalist, this is their job. Hire one of those people and pay them a grundle of money to say, I want you to do some serious digging. We're going to have a new Bachelor coming out. We're vetting him and the vetting process, because he tried saying as well on a podcast that the vetting process to get him onto the show was pretty extensive. He had to have his fingerprints. He got reports back from the FBI, whatever. And so I think they're doing some vetting, but clearly not the important
Honestly,
vetting.
You know what they need to do? They need to put a millennial girl on it.
Literally, my sister-in-law, she could get you the last time he went to Chili's.
They need to give them like a $50 budget.
Totally.
And then they need to give them 8 hours on the internet. Honestly, they could give them 3 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say barely
like,
3.
If you give them 8, they'll like have their childhood home pulled up.
Yeah, they'll be able to tell you what genetic diseases their grandchildren
He grew up in Gary,
have.
Indiana. This was his childhood home. There actually used to be a white fence right here, but they tore it down in 1980.
Like, they tore it down for zoning issues.
There is nothing like a woman trying to find information on the internet.
Know. Everybody needs a friend that can absolutely find information that the government cannot find.
Yeah.
And I have one of those as well.
Want to hear a funny story about that?
Yes.
I'm known for my internet sleuthing of finding people. I was in a mood where I was like, oh, that one guy that I used to date, what is happening with him? I look him up on the internet because at one point in time, he had a huge Instagram following, like 40,000 people.
Okay.
Because he was one of those Instagrammers who would like go into the desert. They would like have a tank and like shoot you know, targets and like hold guns. Yes. Very like
MAGA.
Maybe like Hurricane Utah energy. Like it just was very Washington County. Shout out Washington County. I love St. George, so I'm not like
Yeah.
But you know the type. And I went to find him on social media. Could not find him. And I could only remember his first name. So I was like, where did this man's go? I am like different combinations of his name. I like his first name. I can't remember. I'm like, what the heck? Then at one point I was like, maybe this was his last name. I go to search like his name and like I type in the first letter of the last name that I thought it was supposed to be. And like a whole thing on Google populates. And I was like, whoa, that was crazy for somebody guessing. This man, his passport is on Google image search.
No.
His photos from him in the National Guard. This man, stolen valor. He was pretending to be a Green Beret.
Wait, what?
And he was caught by an organization who outs people who are pretending to be in special forces, and had to delete his social media, make a public apology after he denied it vehemently, and was like, oh no, that's not me. Then they posted his passport online. Like, crazy. I freaked out. And also, I remember when I went on dates with him, he was like super vague about what he did in the army. And I was like, I have to be honest, like, I don't actually care. Not because I don't support our troops and veterans, but I was just like, you're really handsome and that's all I'm here for. So I don't care. But I was just like, not stolen valor.
I want to know,
nuts.
This is what we're going to do for people who made it to the end of the episode. I want to know the craziest date story you have. So you have the fake Green Beret.
Yeah.
I will have to tell at a future point my date where I actually went on a date with a sex worker. And I've told you that story.
I think you have, yeah.
Yeah. Yikes. So
that's an expensive date.
There's a full story there. But I can't put that story on the pod. So you'll have to ask me, episode. And I can do a private DM of what actually happened there. But I want to hear your guys' worst dating story. Like,
if you can put it in a comment.
If you could put it in a comment, just give
us.
Or
DM us,
or just
please.
Give us like what the headline would read for your worst date. So yours would
woman
be
finds out
fake Green Beret blows
seduces
tanks
hot woman
in hurricane. Right? Something like that.
I love it.
Anything else for the episode, babe?
No, we're the Good Bad Advice podcast.
Yeah. Welcome, you guys. We're the Good Bad Advice podcast. We're your host, Chase. I'm Chase. We give advice to people on the news. We love you guys. Thank you for listening and sharing and being a part of this fun journey. We've got a couple more episodes till the end of the year.
Yeah.
Programming update will be, there'll be a special episode from the week of Christmas to New Year's. But other than that, we're slated to be here up until St. Nick comes down that chim chim.
Mm-hmm.
We don't call it a chim chim. I
Make
heard
sure
it come out. And I
to not be naughty because Santa's watching.
I know. We only have all parents, we only have a couple more weeks of being able to leverage an imaginary white man bringing presents to our children in order to get them to behave. So we got to maximize on that.
Love you guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.